All right, you're free to proceed.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a virtual meeting of the Boardwalk and Beach Committee of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And we're meeting virtually as we have been for some time. First, I'm going to call the roll. And Allison Stein. Brian Hancock.
Yep.
Frank Cole. Guy, I think. It's spring break. I bet that everybody's in Florida. Jimmy Horty.
I'm here.
Honey Fisher.
Here.
Steve Curson.
Here.
And Jay Legree. I am the chairman of this committee, and I'm here. We have a quorum. I did not call Gary Glass's name because he and Brian are moving, and he had to resign from the committee. And we'll be naming a replacement in a few days. Is everybody okay with the minutes of the February 16 meeting? You've all had a chance to read that and go over it.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion, all opposed. The motion carries, and we have approved our 16 February minutes. There's been no correspondence, and so I'd like to go straight into old business. I've asked Kevin, or I would like to ask Kevin Williams, the Public Works Director, to bring us up to date on anything that he might have. And I'm doing this now because he's got a project going on in South King Charles and King Charles, period. So he probably needs to get out of here and get back to work. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Commissioner. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Great. Right. Since the last presentation to the board with respect to the dark skies and the Verizon cell sites on the boardwalk, we've heard nothing from them. So they after the meeting, they realized they were having some issues with their foundation design. So they've asked for a couple of pieces of information from the original boardwalk construction, but nothing has moved since that meeting with respect to their applications to put them on the lights there at the boardwalk. So I think there's a real question at hand now whether they're going to be able to get something in, approved, and constructed in time for this season. So we may not get cell on the boardwalk lights this summer. So more to follow, I'm sure, but we haven't heard anything since that last meeting, and it's been what, a month or two, 6 weeks anyway. So.
Thanks, Kevin. Sounds like they're working on it and still making decisions. So the model that was shown in the 4 December Cape Gazette may not be valid, or it may be valid, or it may be altered a little bit. They're still having discussions. Is that correct? Am I okay there?
I think that's correct. There's an issue with the foundation. Obviously, they had told us, everything would be encased in that housing, and you wouldn't see anything from the outside. When I guess they were getting ready to redo their submittal after they reduced the size of that external box and all those things. Oh, we had pretty good agreement on what they were going to submit and ready to approve. That's when they realized they had the problem down at the foundation. So I know that their engineers are working it now. We'll just see what they come up with.
Okay. Won't ask any more specific questions because probably, there's probably not a lot more to say right now.
I know it's not on the boardwalk or the beach, but they did get approval for additional ones down the center of Rehoboth Avenue. So, we have the two AT&T poles already with the antenna.
Yes, sir.
They did get approval for the 5 of those replacement poles on the Rehoboth Avenue, but nothing on the boardwalk.
They being Verizon.
Yes, Verizon.
So they'll be presumably using the same high band down Rehoboth Avenue that they're trying to use on the boardwalk, or is this backhauling? Am I making bad assumption?
I think it was part of their overall plan to provide 5G coverage for Rehoboth. So I think it was in addition to what they were going to do on the boardwalk, but I think it all ties together with their overall plan.
Okay. So they may or may not need those high band antennas. They may be using a different wavelength, but yeah, they look a lot better than some towns, what we've got so far. So it's not all bad or not all good, I guess. But thanks for the heads up on that. I sure appreciate it.
Sure. There's a bunch of them, as you can see, if you drive down all the way down to Ocean City. I mean, Dewey's got them, Bethany's got them, and they're pretty prevalent up and down Route 1.
Kevin?
Yeah.
The poles you say they're going to replace on the avenue, are they the poles that the banners were on?
Yes, banner poles.
Okay, so they'll be similar to what's there already?
Correct. They have a really good match to what AT&T did with their poles. Everything kind of on the inside. It's got the big antenna in a shroud up at the top, and then the same kind of light fixture arms, and the light fixtures are the same.
Will we still be able to hang the banners off of those?
Yes, can.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If they use those same shrouds that AT&T used, that's about as good as I've seen. I'm wondering if they can do that. But any way to get those I shouldn't be talking here. Any way to get get the electrical feed off of those H-frame boxes set beside the base.
Yes, and in fact, I think that's part of one of the betterments that Verizon's able to do. They're able to hang everything inside the pole, and I guess they've got Delmarva to agree to hang the disconnect and the meter on the pole as well. So it'll get rid of the H-frames that sit next to the two that are out there now. So that's good news.
Oh, that is good news. I'd love to see him get that one away from that sits out there by the lifeguard place, the lifeguard headquarters. But it is what it is. Thank you very much.
Well, that was going to get a lot bigger, because if Verizon does go with the ones on the boardwalk, we were bringing a lot of them back to that.
Yes.
And that is a hub. So that place where we have that large H-frame already, that'll probably get another H-frame next to it. But, minimize. Well, it's getting rid of the ones on the face of the boardwalk. So
that's true.
Back behind the bushes, behind the building, and maybe we'll camouflage it more if we ever get to building a new, lifeguard station down there. So it's much better than the alternative of having them out on the front end of the boardwalk.
Well, and as you remember, we're going to get ready to. We have a streetscape task force that is going to have to deal with all those structures, I guess.
Sure.
So that'll be fun. But anyway, well, for the third time, I thank you very much, Kevin, and we so appreciate any updates that you can bring to us. Good luck with the sewer line down King Charles. And Brian, did you have a question for Kevin?
Yeah, please. It's not to do with the 5G, Kevin, but some of the owners here at Star of the Sea have noticed new fencing go up on the dunes that comprises white nylon rope. Can you let me know if this is temporary or is this going to be a permanent fence system?
It's certainly going to be permanent for this year. I mean, it's a new thing Denrec's trying. I mean, they did a bunch of the post and rope fences to protect the dunes over in Lewis. I don't know how successful it was, but they're doing that now. So they operate and maintain those crossings. So obviously it caused us a little bit of concern in that section where they're just doing ropes, because
Right.
one, it's just going to blow back and forth across the new mats we got for all the dune crossings. So it's going to be a lot more maintenance for us trying to keep those. We think it will be a lot more maintenance for us trying to keep those clear of sand.
Mm-hmm.
The ropes are going to be a lot less inhibitive for, kids or whoever wants to run across the dunes. So I think I'm committed to that for this year. We'll kind of see how it goes and then offer our recommendations after we kind of experience them for a while.
Okay. Thank you.
In kind of the middle section, from Rehoboth, I think, down to Laurel, maybe, or maybe it's even Baltimore, Maryland, down to Laurel. But the north end and the very south end, I think, may still have the fencing.
Right. All right. Thank you.
I looked at that and I wondered if maybe they were trying to not restrict the movement of sand, or you just can't figure it out. But are we allowed to maintain those mats? Let's see, where the boardwalk?
Yeah, so we've always had that kind of agreement with Denrec that we could kind of, because we have to keep them level and fill in behind when they start to erode out. The two handicap access ramps at Maryland and Laurel, different story, because it's got kind of a much more substantive base material to it. But as far as maintaining what we call the actual dune crossing, I mean, that's a Denrec responsibility. They have told us that if we wanted to do maintenance on those, more of the maintenance on it ourselves, that they're more than willing to allow us. You have to sign up, apply. They would approve you to do certain things. We were really wanting to go ahead and start doing some of that. Part of the justification for getting that skid steer, because it'll fit right nicely down there to back blade.
You bet.
Sure, we're gonna, with the new configuration, we haven't yet decided whether or not we want to apply for the maintenance on those, rather than just let it play out and see how much work's going to be involved with it before we take that on.
Anybody else have anything for Kevin?
Yeah, I do. Any
Go ahead,
update on
Steve.
the bathroom situation at Delaware Avenue?
So we're going to go ahead and advertise it again for the coming year. Hopefully to start construction, if we get good bids, that after the season.
Okay.
And that's to put ADA accessible changing rooms and a couple extra restrooms on the back outer perimeter.
And we're going to use the same drawings that, or the same detail that we used when we submitted our last request, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So far, it's made it through the whole budget process at the increased amount, which is we based it basically on what we got bids for last year, and the other boardwalk. The lifeguard station and the restrooms at Baltimore Avenue. So right now seems to be making it through the budget process, which we hope to get approved on Friday.
Yeah, I think we'll approve the budget on Friday. We've got that all straightened out, and I think we're good to go forward. So that looks like it'll work. Well, thank you very much once again. And
I'm going to run because of the lining job. The guys are starting to show up.
we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Hey,
Jay.
Jay, can someone please send Guy Abernathy the link to this meeting in an email? He's unable to get through with the calendar invite.
Thank you. I will do that right now.
All right, great. Thank you. I would do it, but I'm driving.
Okay. Don't text. And I will do that. Before I do that, let's maybe I should have had honey, do you have Guy's address in front of you? Could you send forward the
I
message?
just sent it to him.
Okay, we're good. We'll talk.
I just sent it to him now.
Okay, great. We'll just keep talking and go from here. I would like to remind everybody that that we're advisory to to the Board of Commissioners, and we act with their permission. And our mission and our goals and our objectives are all coordinated with the Board of Commissioners. And that's probably the best way to make a successful committee work. Although we're going to talk about some other things here in a few minutes that are a little bit like that. But we just need to remember that that's what we do. And as you recall, we want to keep a friendly, safe, clean boardwalk and beach and do no harm. And that's a biggie. So with that, let me move things around a little bit here, and let's start talking about the Dark Sky Initiative. Have any of us had any thoughts, or have you done anything or looked into it anymore since our last meeting when we talked about dark? Oh, hi, Guy. Since we talked about dark sky. Well, what I did was I became a dark sky advocate, which is something that you're allowed to do. The website is darksky.org, and I'm going to send you some links, and I'll send you some resources soon, and those can be embedded in our next meeting, or Anne may embed them in this meeting. But the Dark Sky website is full of information. And as a dark sky advocate, I was enrolled in a Zoom course, which lasted for about an hour. And there was a lot of information in there. And it was a great introduction to dark sky and their resources. They are not a big organization. The Dark Sky headquarters right now consists of 8 people, and they run Dark Sky. It's amazing, but and they were working with 7, and they just added an 8th one because they are working hard on their website, and but their board of directors, if you get on their website, and I encourage you to take a look at the board of directors and see who they are. And they have some dynamite, powerful people. So it's not like they're a fly by night or a scant organization. They're really well founded. Kate and Jan and Frank and I had a conference call with a fellow named John Barentine, and we were just looking for resources, and he's the director of their public relations, and he's a PhD astronomer. He's written several books. He's contributed lots to the literature, and he's a dark sky advocate, and he works for the nonprofit. The course that I took this weekend was given by someone named Betty Maya Foote, and she is headquartered in Moab, or near Moab, Utah, and so many of them are centered around the Southwest, and that makes sense because that's where the big sky country is. I'm from Farmington, New Mexico, and it's big sky, and it's you live with the dark sky, and it's great. But most of us in this country do not live with a dark sky. We live in the populated areas. But one, let me ask everybody, just if you just kind of think about it for a minute, what do you think the biggest obstacle is for adoption of a dark sky philosophy? Anybody have any ideas? Jimmy, what do you think the biggest stumbling block will be? And it's going to be that for us too.
I think it's going to be like having the lights on the boardwalk. I think a lot of people want it very bright there. You know, they look at it as a sense of security and things like that. I think that's going to be the obstacle that we have to overcome by changing the lighting and things like that to be more downward rather than, you know, exploding outward. I know from what we've done with our office building, you know, we were always used to having like the major huge floodlights to light everything up. And it was ironic because when we went with, you know, the newer light fixtures and the new, you know, bulbs that can be adjusted and everything like that, we have the same results with the new, more efficient lighting actually that costs less to run, you know, for our electric bill than those massive floodlights that we had before. And it's ironic because where my office is, my house sits way up on a hill overlooking the office. And before it used to just white out the entire area. Now with the new lighting that's focused downward, I can see over everything and actually look across and see some of the lights over in the Alapocus Park over on the drive through there. It's astonishing. And I mean, it's literally just, you know, once you see it, then you realize, you know, how well it does work.
Honey, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a hard sale for the people who have spent a lot of money on all these floodlights, trying to get them to do it. And the hotel along the boardwalk that has the bright lights on year round. It's going to be a slow process, but I think it's workable. I think it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, do you have any thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm kind of in favor of it, but I think it's going to be a hard sell here. And I was looking at some of the locations that are considered a dark sky location or whatever they call themselves. Like you were saying, they're either out west or it's in a park somewhere in a remote area where they can, they're already kind of dark sky compliant to begin with, and then they turn off 2 or 3 lights and they're really dark sky. So we have a problem here with as much ambient light as we have. It's gonna be tough to get really dark sky compliant.
Brian, what do you think?
Brian, you're muted.
Unmute, Brian.
So I think our biggest obstacle is the fact that we're being solicited for this as a retrofit to the town and to the boardwalk. It would have been so much easier had we been like a new community where we could start right from the very beginning. And Holly's point, we've got a lot of businesses on the boardwalk that require light exposure to bring the clients in off the boardwalk. The jewelry store in this building, that's highly lit up and people expect that. But what's ironic is that in the 1940s, during Operation Drumbeat, when the German submarines would sit just offshore from the Delaware, New Jersey coast, the DOD actually requested all the boardwalks to dim their lights because the German submarines were using the backlit coastal lights to silhouette the merchant ships going up and down the coast. And, it's amazing to think that all these years after, we've still got that same kind of situation.
Thanks, Brian. Guy, any thoughts? It's kind of hard for you. Everybody to have their thoughts out.
What's that?
Keep going.
Okay, I was going to say I agree the fact with Jimmy as far as the security and everything. I think that's going to be our biggest stumbling block. But as far as trying to get to the area as far as the dark skies, I think that's achievable, but over a long period of time to work towards that. So as new things come in, they can implement those ideas, and then those that are in existence, that's their lighting or whatever needs to be replaced, then that can happen at the same time. I don't think it's something that we'd be able to achieve in a year time frame at all, but over a long period, I think we can strive for that.
Well, I think everybody kind of hit on the head. As I attended that training, you folks just about hit every single subject. The big one of the biggest worries, problems, hurdles is making people believe that they can be as secure with less light. And safety is a big part of it. People believe that the brighter it is, the safer it is. And in 1998, the city of Chicago changed the lights in two of their boroughs, two of their precincts. Police precinct number 11, police precinct number 7, I think. Anyway, number 11 had like 25,000 people in it. Precinct number 7, I had 48,000 and some. But what they did, they decided to change all of their lights, mainly in the alleys. They had you can't believe, they had like 170,000 lights that had to be changed. And they had to bring in more power, and they had to do everything. They had to go from 90 watts to, I think, 225 watts. And they did one borough first, and then the next year they did a second one. What do you think the results were? They tested prostitution, street crimes like that. They kept track of vehicular damages. They kept track of property damages. They kept track of drugs. And then the 5th category was all other incidental stuff. What do you think it showed? Well, I'll tell you. It's the other way, Jimmy. The vehicular traffic, people's damage to cars, vandalism, didn't really change from the 90 watts to the 225 watts. Damage to property didn't really change. Prostitution didn't change. You'd think that prostitution stuff would go up or maybe down, who knows, but it didn't change. The only category that changed when they put the bright lights in was drugs. And guess what it did? It skyrocketed. Everybody was dealing more drugs in the light. And the next year they thought, well, this is crazy. So the next year, they put the lights in the other precinct. Same thing happened. So in 1998, 99, 2000, the city of Chicago, you could not tell them that it's going to be safer if you lighten up everything. So they asked themselves, well, why did drugs go up so much? And they kind of decided that maybe in the light, people could see better and they would be reporting more crimes. And maybe the number of drug crimes stayed the same anyway. It's just that people reported them. So the dark sky people have kind of adopted a new slogan. It says, light up the ground, but not the sky. And that's kind of catchy and that kind of works. But I think here's what I'm thinking. And we'll talk about hard sell. We'll talk about all the changes, and we'll talk about it's going to take a long period of time. All those are very true. But I'm beginning to think that it's true we have the boardwalk is a lot of low-hanging fruit. But I'm thinking that the rest of the city probably is too. There's probably, as Brian and Steve, it's probably, there's just so far to go and so many things that need to be done. I think the first major project might be education. It might be just getting the information out to every citizen in Rehoboth and just try to spread the idea maybe before we even think about demanding change or trying to enforce rules, or maybe even making an ordinance. Maybe we could think about just starting with education and telling people what to do, letting them do it and see what happens. I'm just not sure. I have some other ideas, but let me hear from you folks. Jimmy's ideas of safety were absolutely spot on. Honey's right. It's a hard sell. It's going to take a lot of money, and the money is going to have to come from the people. As Steve said, it's so far to go. Just virtually thousands of opportunities to change the light, and it's going to be hard to get people to get on board. And as Guy said, it's going to take a long, long time. So let me hear some more ideas. Jimmy?
I mean, this is just a thought. I mean, would it be in the city's best interest to look into if there's any, grants that would be available pertaining to, dark sky, and we could have like take a block or something like that and just, go in and do it as a test area. I honestly would not have believed it until I saw it and went to, our electrical contractor gave us, a different parking lots where they had done this. And these are places I had driven by a million times before. And, until I actually saw it, that's when I believed it. I think that might be something that we could investigate just to see if there are any grants out there to, let us be able to do a block or, an area on the boardwalk, or, just pick a place, within the city limits just so people could see it. Either I think, just based on what, Brian and Honey said, with the couple of the businesses on the boardwalk that do have a lot of really bright lights, maybe we could go to one of them and just say, would you be interested in participating? If we were able to get a grant or something like that, just to do a study, it might be worth a shot.
I think it would be worth a shot. I think what we need to do also is to continue communicating with the dark sky people. Mm-hmm. If anybody would know where their money is, they might be able to help us. Yeah. I don't know whether we might get with Evan. He may know of grants that might be around, but I think the dark sky people would probably know. Yeah. Your personal experience is very powerful. If you're talking to someone, a citizen, a voter, mm-hmm. of Rehoboth Beach, what you're telling me is very powerful.
Mhm.
And that might be an avenue.
Mhm.
I don't know whether we could hold meetings maybe, or uh, there's some other ideas too.
I
Uh,
honestly, I think, the education part is crucial. I think, when we had Kate Markart and, a couple of the other people on there, you know, I think just by spreading the word, I agree with what everybody has said. This is going to, we had to educate and, really have the discussions. But I mean, I think if we just had, during the season when a lot of people are in, I mean, I'm happy to, work with Kate and, that group, who presented everything to this committee, just to, help get the word out. And, whether we do it like via, meeting at somebody's house or something like that, just to, really get the word out and discuss it. I mean, I'm happy to work with Kate and everybody. I mean, I know them, so I'm happy to work with them on it.
well, I think we all do. We all know one another.
Yeah.
Honey, how would you start?
I live right on the boardwalk, and so I
Yeah,
see the impact daily of the bright lights just
you
consuming the
bet.
whole skyline. So it's really hard for people like visitors who come into town walking down the boardwalk for them to really see what the issue is. They're there to do something on the boardwalk, and I don't think they're looking up at the sky, so they don't really understand the urgency of it or the value of it. But I think it's so important. It's so critical. I just don't know how to sell it. I need to get some information on how to sell it. I'll talk to anybody. I think that the boardwalk is the only place we have to work with, but I think that starting with the downward lights would just be the best step, just to get that done and speak to the individual owners down the boardwalk. I mean, Brian did a great job putting all those together. I planned on the next time I was down there taking a picture at night of the boardwalk from the ocean and just see what it looks like, what the streetscape looks like there. And that might give us some kind of an idea where we need to direct our attention.
Yeah. Uh, if you get on the darksky.org website, there are apps that you can get on your smartphone and measure the stuff that you measure. I don't know how they work.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't downloaded it yet, but you can. There are apps for your smartphone that lets you measure how much light trespass there is, and then it'll send it off to some data center somewhere, the American Astronomy Institute or somebody, on how they have these apps have pictures of constellations, and they tell you which way to point your smartphone, and then they show you how to recognize the constellations, and then you take a picture, and that goes into, and then they grade it. They have a map of the United States, and then they'll grade how dark you are or how light you are. It's just, there's so many things when you start digging into it. It's
It would be
unbelievable.
wonderful if we aren't as bad as we think we are.
Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
The Steve, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I think we should change the initiative to a dark in the sky rather than dark sky. We're never going to achieve a dark sky here. The best we can do is just bring it down, lower it down a little bit. I mean, if we really truly want a dark sky, we should send people to, I know it's not open at night, but Henlopen State Park or somewhere along Route 1 down towards in between Dewey and Bethany or something. If they really want to see what a dark sky looks like.
My goal is to be able to walk out onto the beach, look up in the sky, and see the Milky Way. That would be my goal of a lifetime.
You need to go back to New Mexico.
Oh yeah, you're right. I could see it every day. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. But I think we're on it. we are concentrating on the boardwalk, but do you think we would be better situated to go ahead and continue to concentrate on the boardwalk, but try to get everybody else to work on it for the rest of the town? Is that because I know the environment committee really wants to get going and wants to do stuff, but I just don't know how to incorporate them or how to combine them or how to get it going that way.
The one suggestion that that we might want to talk about is, I noticed I was down at the beach this past weekend, and drove around to different areas and certain streets. I mean, I'm on Henlopen, but the thing that's amazing, when you drive from Henlopen, and then I drove over to my cousin's house in Henlopen Acres, just the difference. And I mean, I know that they don't have the big street lights in Henlopen Acres.
That's true.
They have more of like the lamppost type. It's amazing. I mean, now I notice it, because all the leaves are off the trees and everything else. And it was one of those really weird things. You just go a block off of Henlopen Avenue into the acres and look up, and it's just astonishing. And maybe, I know that, we're talking about the boardwalk, but maybe it might be worth taking, taking like a block, within, whatever street, in Rehoboth, and just go from there.
Let me tell you where I'm headed. With this year's budget, we are authorizing LEDs for streetlights on Rehoboth Avenue. Maybe now's the time to start thinking about dark sky compliant LED lights for Rehoboth Avenue. You don't know whether to jump on that now or just how to go about doing it. But I did learn, and I think I've said this before, I did learn when the course that I was taking, that LED lights are really compatible. They can be dimmed, they can be turned off or dimmed a lot during the middle of the night and not so much on each edge of the night. Many things can be done. You can put them so that they turn off when the sun goes up, darken according to how much light there is outside. So this might be the time for us to talk to some people about that. I'd hate to see LED lights go into the Rehoboth Avenue or anywhere that have all that blue light. And that's a real problem with LEDs. Part of that is maybe not as safe as a warmer light that's dampened in intensity. I'm just talking, they've done studies with LED light emitters that show that they may not be so healthful in that blue range. So that's something to think about. Brian or Guy, you have any thoughts along that line? Hey, Brian, how many people live in Star of the Sea?
We have 96 units here. 2/3 of those units are rental units. The other 1/3 are kept for individuals and their family members. But it's very, very rarely that, that our building is guilty of being totally lit. We have no light fixtures on our balconies. So all the lights in this building are contained within the building, except on the boardwalk level where we've got commercial clients. And I think your biggest sell is going to be not only on the boardwalk, but around the town. You're going to be opposing business people. Business people at this very time are hurting big time. And they want to do absolutely anything they can do to attract people into their store. And
Sure.
this, and if that means having a nice, bright, inviting looking store, then that's going to be their first. That's going to be their first priority, I would think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And I agree with Steve and Jimmy that, you know, we should probably designate an area and say to people and publicize the fact that, hey, do you know that in the Rehoboth area we have a dark sky where you can go and see the Milky Way, or you can see the stars. I know I can go on the roof of this building here, and it's beautiful up there. I can see absolutely everything. I can watch the launch from Wallops Island and see everything perfect. But when you come down to street level, it's a totally different story. So it'd be nice if we could have something, maybe Chamber of Commerce or whatever on their website saying, hey, we have a dark sky area in this region, and here is where it is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Guy.
Jay, I'd say that maybe one of the first steps besides the education is there's a lot of things we can do by just changing the way our current lights are, aiming them down. And I don't think that changes the stores any as far as lighting them up. But I mean, I lived, on the fourth floor of my deck. I was lit up entirely by the light across the street from the Oceanus parking lot. It was aimed straight out rather than down. I mean, just the conscious awareness of pointing and directing light down rather than just letting it go wherever would make a big difference, or putting shields over the top so it doesn't go up and focuses that go down. I think that's a huge step, especially in some of the neighborhood areas where you could eliminate a lot of the lost light that's going up into the sky by just direction.
Yep. Light the ground, not the sky. Something else. I don't know what y'all got, but from the tone of Kevin's report, we may still not be out of the picture, because they may not get their lights up this year the way it sounds. And as you recall, at that meeting that the commissioners had, the thing that was pushing Verizon the hardest was their desire to get this stuff going this summer. And that was why, if you remember that lawyer, her name was O'Reilly, she said, we got to get going on it. We got to get going. And if we can't get going, we may look at legal action. Well, it sounds like they may or may not make it. I just don't know. But if they don't make it, maybe we have an opportunity to rethink some things. We just don't know. So we can keep that in our mind. But as we've all said, and Brian just got done, the lights on the boardwalk have to be aimed down. We've either got a shield above them, or put blocks in the globes, or put shades on them or something. But they've got to be aimed down. Honey, as you remember, you sent a photograph of Cape May, and those were aimed down. And that would be a big help. And something else that Brian said, maybe we could tell the shop owners, look, you can keep the inside as bright as you want, but maybe when the lights come outside, we should try to dampen that a little bit. I don't know whether that would be a hard sell or not, but it's just an idea. Something that I've wondered about, and I want you to think about this. Would it be, you think we'd have any advantage if we asked the mayor to appoint a task force, maybe half a dozen people, maybe one or two from our committee, and maybe a couple from the environment committee, and one from streets and transportation? Maybe get a task force going. Would that gain us anything? Primarily looking at education is what I'm trying to think about. I just don't know if that would be a wasteful thing or not.
Well, You already have Frank's group
We sure do. We sure do. They would be,
out there.
they could lead the task force. I mean, that'd be ideal. I don't know whether Jan and Kate and Frank's, would have the desire to do that or not. But it certainly would be, it might be something to think about. Put Dick on it.
Jay?
Yes, honey.
It's Allison.
Oh, this is Al.
This is going to have to be a public and private sector, collaboration. This
Sure
is
is.
not something we only control a small portion of the lights that we're referring to. So I think the people who brought it to us would be the ideal people to lead any type of task force to figure out, how to bring the public and the private together. The public side seems easy to me because we can write it into the code.
Yeah.
We can say that any redevelopment projects or anything with planning and zoning need to be dark skies compliant, just like they would have to be LEED
Yeah.
compliant, right? We could give incentives for that. And, anytime somebody makes an application for a new sign, they would have to comply and conform, or a redevelopment would comply and conform. It's the private sector that I think is going to, be a challenge to get them to comply voluntarily. So
Yeah.
I just think that since we control such a small number in the grand scheme of things with regard to the whole city and just the boardwalk, which is only which is our purview, maybe this is an issue that is better in the hands of the environmental committee, because we can tell them that we would be supportive of their effort with regard to making recommendations as far as the boardwalk is concerned, but they can focus on the entire city versus us, which really our only concern is the beach and the boardwalk.
Yeah, Allison. I have approached Dick. I've approached the Environment Committee and with that thought. I just don't think they're quite ready to handle that kind of a project right now. And as you say, I'm not sure we're ready to handle that kind of a project right now, because we're just a small part of that. Although we are a very opportunity-rich environment for sure, and maybe we ought to ask the Chamber of Commerce to maybe we should talk to Carol and say, you think we got any ideas about this? Any thoughts? Do you have anybody that would, I don't know who the real active members are on the board, but Carol knows everything. So there might be a conversation there, because I think you're right, Allison. I think it's a public-private thing. And as we said, this is going to cost some people some money when they start having to convert, and as you said, Allison, maybe just start from where we are, like all things going forward. I really hate to put hard pressures on for ordinances and things like that. I think trying to force ordinances might not be the way to do it. We might ought to go hard on education, just get some more ideas. Does anybody want to have another comment on this?
I have one more comment. I think that
Okay.
if the city is going to try to say that we want everybody to go dark sky, the city has to make the first step.
Yeah.
And they have to do something like changing all the lights.
Yeah.
The boardwalk, go down the streets, because we can't expect the citizens to make a big change and put their money up if
Yes.
not putting.
And that's why I'm so interested in these LED conversions. That might be a good place to start. But that's not the boardwalk. However, if Verizon is not going to get going this summer, they may be interested in talking about moving their antennas. You just don't know, and going to a different light, especially if we'll help fund them. These are
Hey, Jay.
bucks right now.
Jay,
Yo,
quick question. Why do we want 5G anyway? I mean, I just don't get it.
you must have been watching the Dewey Beach Commissioners meeting. That was quite a meeting.
Yeah.
And they were asking those same questions. It was quite a meeting. It was a lot of fun. It was not fun, but it was very, very informative of what people really think, you know. The answer is they need 5G for a lot of other things besides people watching movies on the beach. That's what they're talking about. But that is just a tiny little wedge of the need for 5G. They need 5G to drive cars. And the latency problem is so huge that they're just going to have antennas everywhere. And they're going to have humongous capacity to backhaul, to take that information as fast as possible back to some central server and say, no, that's not a deer in front of you. That's a horse wagon or something like that. Because that's what driverless cars are. It's a lot of information going back and forth, and they need 5G to do that. But But that was an interesting question. It was asked many times, and it was never answered. As you recall, Kevin mentioned that the main drag going through town is filled with those poles. And that's because Delaware Law 189 lets these companies do that. And Pete and Ernie voted for that law. So they were getting some flack too at the meeting, everybody that heard it. We've come to the end of the meeting. Our next, and I'm going to ask for final comments in a minute. Our next meeting is going to be on the 12th of April at 10:30. Is that what everybody has?
Yes.
And in the meantime, I'll be, and y'all do it too. Get on darksky.org and just go through all the stuff that they have. They just have tons of stuff. And I just downloaded model ordinance user's guide this morning, 44 pages, and it just talks all kinds of stuff about implementing dark sky and the things that you need to do to achieve it. There's just lots of information on there, and I think that'd be good for us to know. Any final thoughts? What's our next step? Keep talking about this. Shall I try to get the Environment Committee?
Yeah, I'm going to reach out. I had to talk to Kate Markert about another issue. So I'm going to reach out to her and, I'm just going to ask her if, we can set something up, during the summer. And, I don't care if we have it at my house or her house or wherever. I think just, off the top of my head, the one cool place that you can really see the difference is, if we were to have something first, in town and just walk around and then go to some place where, you actually can see it. My thought was, just have a group of people go out, even out by Rehoboth Country Club, it's definitely, you can see everything from the sky out there.
A lot more than here.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy to reach out to Kate.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, honey.
I think we should continue to look for alternatives to the light posts that we have, light fixture themselves. We're going to have something with a modified gooseneck that won't allow the birds to land on it.
Yeah.
But I think if we can go to Verizon and say, this is a real good alternative to what you're planning, rather than just say, this is a problem, you better give them a solution rather than a problem.
Yeah, yeah. You have at the Henlopen condo, what do you have? 250 people?
140,
100,
140 units. Yeah.
100,
And yeah, we all have lights on our balconies, but nobody puts them on. I mean, if you look up from the beach, it's really not the individual units that are a problem. It's looking up at the lights on the boardwalk. I think pretty much all the way down. You don't really see much at Edgewater House. They all have lights, but you don't really see it. 1 Virginia Avenue, they have lights, but most people don't turn them on. If they're sitting out on their balconies, they're sitting out there because of the dark. They like the dark. Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
My question for asking that is how many people you represent. And if Brian represents 100 and you represent probably a couple hundred more voters, that's probably a significant segment of citizens in our town. So when you folks speak, you have some credibility, and I think that's important to get groups of people in favor of limiting the light trespass and light pollution. Yeah, Brian.
Yes, Stowe of the Sea's been on this issue with the city now for many years. In fact, it all started when they took away the gooseneck lights when they redid the boardwalk all those years ago. And at one time, I had Greg Fraze and even Stan Mills on our balconies showing how much the boardwalk lights, and I know this happens up at Holly's place as well, how much of boardwalk lights just shine into the units. It's, we have to have on the first and second floors, a lot of the units are having blackout curtains because the lights are so strong. And I know that Stan actually had filters put on the lights, and I've seen them, but they just don't work. They're not strong enough, or they're not good enough to reflect the light downwards.
Yeah.
So I know it's been an issue, and it's an issue that we've been working on, but we haven't come to the solution yet.
I think I'm hearing that the acorn type lights, as nostalgic and iconic as they are, might not be the best thing for dark sky. We just
they're not. They're not
shrouding them. And he's taken pictures of lights, and we've looked at sketches of lights and we may have an opportunity if Verizon can't come, if they decide they just can't make it this summer, we may have an opportunity to make some changes. I just don't know. We need to really work hard with Kevin, but it's in such a flux. Guy.
One question on the gooseneck lights that you guys had before, Jay. How do they stand up to like the wind and the weather on the boardwalk? Are they sturdy enough, or will they cause problems with, coming loose or anything like that?
A lot of beach towns have them, and they work fine. You just have to have a really strong bracket. And if they're going to make us new poles, that's very doable. But it can be done. I think Honey showed me a picture of a bunch of goosenecks we had on our own boardwalk, the ones that shined out on the sand. Those are big goosenecks, but it's doable. They're gettable. And of course, all of our street lights have a gooseneck sticking out. But yeah, the boardwalk is the one that gets the brunt of the wind. But I think that's very doable. I think Stan's objection was the dadgum seagulls spend time on the top. But I think that's fixable. Is there any more comments? Are we ready to go? Get the IT folks back to the job. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Jimmy, second.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, folks, I'm going to send you some material, and thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
It's
Bye.
open.